Hi guys, good to see you again. Tonight I want to talk about a couple of things I was thinking about. This isn't written down; it's completely off the top of my head. But this is really for those of you that are wanting to get something done. So ultimately, if you want to achieve an objective, whatever objective it is, if it requires more people then you have a couple of options of for getting other people to work together to achieve the objective that you want to achieve. Typically, we are calling this leadership. So you could say this is a quick discussion about leadership. But there's a quote by Anton Saint Exupery. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It basically says, if you want to build a ship, don't gather people together on the beach and tell them what to do. Assign them to go get some wood and instruct them to build the ship, but rather you teach them the endless meaning of the sea. And this is really about inspiring people to aligning your goals with the goals of other individuals so that in the context of achieving your goal, they're also achieving their own goal. Typically, we do this in industry by giving people money. We're going to pay you a salary. We're going to give you some shares. We're going to give you some kind of incentive so that we are aligning our goals with your goals. It's the easiest way. It's the economic way of achieving a kind of leadership. But I think the premise, the understanding of alignment and the understanding, rather than instructing people, but to teach them the endless meaning of the sea, is relevant in a lot of other areas, that are outside the traditional, I pay you money and you come and you do something for me, really, or how we self-identify as professionals. I pay you money and you do a career for me, or you do a professional job for me. Really, if we start thinking in the context of aligning the ultimate goal of what it is that we're trying to create and involving other people within the context of the goal, of course, keeping in mind the difference between, co-ownership or self-ownership or community, co-ownership or community, or, the alignment of just being paid to work on something. And then also, as we align this with our own ideas of what excellence is in the context of being a professional or being an expert or being a master. In other words, you could pay somebody to work on building a ship, and they're going to work on building that ship, and they're not going to be a part of that ship after they're gone. You give them money, and the only reason they do a good job is because they care about their reputation, and they also ultimately care about being a master of their craft. So this notion of what a master of a craft is, this notion of what a craft person is. And as we come into kind of a creative endeavors, this is where we start to see craftsmanship really show. If you are, for example, a web developer, you're building websites. If you are the author of a book, if you're a researcher, wherever you're actually creating something and you want that something to be a wonderful piece of craftsmanship, you want to create something wonderfully, you're really getting out of that you get some self-autonomy, you get some self-mastery, you get some self-actualization in the context of being a master of your craft. And you're also getting paid to be a master of your craft. And so when you align all of these things up, you can be motivated to work on something which possibly doesn't benefit you. Once you've made it, you ship it off, it belongs to somebody else and it benefits them, but you still have some mastery invested in it. Now, as a leader, when you're aligning people to work with you, obviously you want to pay close attention to how they feel about whether or not they are mastering their craft. You also want to pay close attention to whether or not their wages are commensurate with the effort that you're doing, or with how much they're contributing to whether or not the boat floats, so to speak. So if one person is pulling all the weight and you're not paying them very well, that's not kind of an exceptional, ideal situation. I think far too often in society, we end up focusing, on the rewards, on the benefits, like basically who's the top dog, who's got the most status, and who's the one that's telling the other people what to do. And we stop focusing on the value of the work itself. In fact, we see people that do good work oftentimes, not in computer programming. In computer programming, they get paid very well, pay them very well, and they're treated very well typically because computer programming currently has kind of an exceptional status. Very similar with doctors, with surgeons, with lawyers. We pay them well for doing good work on account of the fact that those have good reputation in those jobs. But a lot of times, for example, I could mention academia. I could mention in the context of a firm, even in a law firm, in an engineering firm, you've got the guys kind of at the bottom of the pile that are doing sort of all of the work. And this idea of work as being something that you don't want to do, somebody else does the work. We don't actually do that work. It's very separated from this notion of mastery of craft. For example, if you were a master chess player, one of the best chess players in the world, and you sat there and you said, well, I'm going to actually get somebody else to do this chess. I'm just going to teach them how to do the chess, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch while they play the chess. You wouldn't do that because chess is a craft and it's not work. It's a game. We don't think of it in the context of work. And so I think this notion of knowledge work as whether or not it's work or whether or not it's a craft, a lot of times, this notion exists because a lot of the work that people do is just extra work that doesn't need to be done. It's just, you've got to make sure that you have a lot of documented paperwork. We're going to make a lot of charts. We're going to give a lot of terminology to things. And we want to make sure that we cover sort of a lot of angles to get people thinking. We're going to have some good presentations. We're going to have a lot of data, a lot of figures, and a lot of things to kind of sell the idea. But at the end of the day, once everything's sold, once everything's kind of moving, all the work kind of comes down to something else. Somebody else sort of doing something, taking our concepts and ideas and turning them into reality. Now, in the context of web development, of software development, of building out something that is artful, I really think that this notion of of whether or not work is something that we should be proud of, and whether or not we want to achieve mastery in the context of what we're doing is something we should think about. We should just think about it a little bit more. We should just think about the value of what it is that we're doing on any given day to day. And so that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next time.